Of all the things I have in abundance, time just isn't one of them. I overheard that statement made by a gentleman to another person as he was declining a rather tempting invitation. How much time do we all really have anyway? Hello, everybody. My name is Bishop Friesch, and I want to welcome you to My Life Through Music, where I talk about the music that was either there at the time or describes the thoughts, feelings, or emotions that I felt at a particular place and time. And the song that does that for these memories is Hallowed Be Thy Name by the powerful Iron Maiden, released in 1982. As some of you may know, by this time, as I alluded in the previous video, we were moving to this new house that my dad was building up in the small town of Cave Creek, Arizona, approximately maybe 25 minutes drive north of where we were in Phoenix. But the new one wasn't finished yet. He was in the process of building it. And so our house sold. So we moved in with my grandmother. And this would be my grandmother on my mom's side. So it was my mom's mother. And she had a little trailer in a trailer park, I want to say around 32nd Street and Bell Road, in that area there. And it was a small trailer, and it was so tight in there. But that's where we lived while the house was being built. And my mom would drive us every morning to the new school we were going to attend. And this school was so small. Our school was so small that they combined the middle school with the high school because there was just so few students. But at that seventh grade year, this was middle school, I met so many cool people. I met a group of guys who had the same taste in music that I had. And at this point, we were getting older, we were becoming more aware, and everybody was listening to so many different bands. And it got to the point where we were trading cassette tapes just like baseball cards. I mean, one week you would say, hey, I'll give you this one for that one. We'll keep it for a couple of days. And then we'd trade them back, after those couple of days were up. And everybody at that time was listening to Iron Maiden, man. And that Christmas, my mom asks me, she goes, what do you want? What do you want for Christmas? And this is what I told her. I said, I want Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast. I want Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind. And I want Ozzy Osbourne, Bark at the Moon. And I got them. I got all three for that Christmas. And I remember sitting on the couch, unwrapping. I knew what they were. You wrap them up, but they still look like the cassette. I knew what they were. And how cool is that? How cool is that? That you tell your mom, hey, I want Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind. I want Ozzy Osbourne, Bark at the Moon. And she didn't even blink an eye. She was like, that's what you want? That's what I'll get you. And that's what I got. And if you look at the covers, especially Number of the Beast, man, I mean, many moms might just think twice about getting that for their 13-year-old son. But my mom, no, she was like, if that's what you want, that's what I'm going to get you. And there was one song on, I loved all of them. I loved all those cassettes. But there was one song during that period that truly captivated me. And that was Hallowed Be Thy Name by Iron Maiden. And when I heard it, And when I listened to it, the intro depicts the setting perfectly. But briefly, the song is about a man who is sentenced to death, and he is describing his last moments before being hanged. And if you read the lyrics, you'll know that it talks about the gallows pole and stuff like that. And I'm going to touch on some of that stuff as I continue. But if you, man, that intro really, the guitar in the beginning, it reminds me of something, and maybe it's death, just eerily sneaking up behind me, those notes, the way they're played. And of course, the bell. The bell is just like the one in Hell's Bells. When I heard it, and when I still hear it, it strikes me, it freezes me. There is something about bells that I just can't explain or describe. But listening to the intro of Hallowed Be Thy Name, I felt the cold of the cell, whether it was concrete or stone or other. And I felt that I could see in my mind this scenario playing out. And that's what the song meant to me at 13. It was a guy going to be hanged. And the music really, to me, when you think of Iron Maiden, the galloping bass, and it just the guitars, and when you listen to it, how they move from low to high, it just, to me at least, it just depicts life moving, the ups and downs, if that's any way to describe it. But beyond that, as I got older and I kept listening to it, and still do, so much more started to come to the surface. For example, and this is something I just recently uncovered and connected the dots, but a few months preceding me, getting into Iron Maiden and hearing this song, I had told my mom that I didn't want to go to her church anymore. And I just didn't want to go. And there were many reasons. I didn't feel the vibe. I didn't feel as if I was getting everything that I could. And I just didn't like it. And perhaps this is why the reference to God in this song was so interesting to me. I just felt that I wanted a deeper personal interpretation of the whole religious realm, if you will. And I wasn't getting it there. And I wanted more. I wanted a wider view, if that makes any sense. But getting back to the intro, he mentions reflecting on my past life. And I think as we get older, I know that for me, as I get older, we reflect more. And maybe that's because, we have more to reflect upon. At 13, I honestly felt like life was going to go on forever. I couldn't see the end. I didn't look for it. I couldn't see it. It was so far out in front of me, I couldn't see it because I was so young. And at that age, you don't think about the end. You don't think about death. And then the last part of that same verse, it says, it's talking about his life. It says, and it doesn't have much time. Time. How much time do we have? It's mentioned 3 times in this song, so it's got to be important. And of course, this coming from the perspective of somebody who is facing death. But time, how much do we have? And what are we doing with it? And is tomorrow guaranteed? You know, and I mentioned earlier, you know, as you get, you know, older, that becomes more prevalent. You think about things like that, as opposed to being younger. But there are so many wise and practical topics of discussion within this song. To go through them all would take much more time that I'm allotting in this video. But there's a few things that I really would like to discuss and hit on. I just want to scratch the surface real quick before I close. But it appears that he is wishing that this was a mistake, that there is an error, that the way he puts it, and that it's not happening. You know, some type of denial, you know, as we face the inevitable, in his case, death. And again, quoting from the song, tears fall, but why am I crying? After all, I'm not afraid of dying. Don't I believe that there never is an end? How do you feel about that? Are you afraid of death? I don't know. I'm not afraid of death. I am not afraid of dying. I would, however, be exceedingly heartbroken and crushed with grief to say goodbye to this world and many people in it. But I'm not afraid of death or dying. I don't mock it. I don't tempt it. But I'm not afraid of it. And at the end of the next verse, it says, if there's a God, why has he let me go? Now, we're not told of the crime. At least I can't see anything alluding to the crime itself. But the man appears to me that he has an air of defiance about him. To me, even to the point where he says, I'm not sorry. Maybe he feels that he was just in his actions. And that's not for me to judge, and that's not for, that's for the Creator or his God. But we don't know what was he falsely accused. I don't think we know that either. But something is pointing me to law. Perhaps elements of universal law, or perhaps karmic law. I don't know. But maybe God isn't letting him go. Maybe. Perhaps the law is just getting fulfilled because of his actions. Again, those actions we don't know. But in the next verse, there appears to be a twist. It says, believe my soul lives on. Don't worry, now that I have gone. And he talks about, I've gone beyond, using those words. it appears that this is after he's gone, that after he's been hanged. I don't know. But as I read that, that's what it sounds like. And that he's alluding to the spirit and the soul, living on, which I do believe. But the song made me think at 13. And it certainly makes me think even more at 49. And that's why this song is where it's at in my life through music playlist. But I always talk about, with my kids and everybody that I discuss this with, the importance of time and not knowing how much we have. We don't know how much time we have. I don't know. How much time do we have? And what are we doing with our time? And that's a question that I ask my kids a lot. What are you doing with your time? Is it being wasted? Is there somebody in your life wasting your time? I certainly, encourage them to, part ways with people like that, because time is so valuable. At least it is to me. Do we fritter and waste the hours in an offhand way? I say that to my kids all the time. And that's quoting, obviously, Pink Floyd's song, Time. Are we living our fullest life every moment? And it's a challenge. It's a challenge. I try to. I sincerely try to. Wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, even at work, I sincerely try. Now, do I do that all the time? No, I don't. But I really do try to live and enjoy and experience life to the fullest, no matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing. I sincerely do try. And I encourage my kids and anybody else for that matter to do that, because that's living to me. And finally, at the end of this song, it says, "Hallowed be thy name." And typically when that phrase is used, it's referring to God or the Lord, higher being. But I want to ask a question. What about your name? Is it hallowed to you? Is it sacred to you? Is it venerated by you? Is it held up by you? Your name, the name you were given. Do you respect it? And what meaning does it have for you? If you were to write down what your name means to you, what words would you use? Do others respect it? What do you think enters the minds of other people when they hear your name? What legacy will you leave behind? For the most part, we have more control. For the most part, we have more control over how we live than how we die. So let's not waste it. Think of somebody you know, and I have somebody in mind, I have several in mind, who recently, or over the last few years, passed on. With the exception of certain circumstances, I'd be willing to bet that all of them, the day before they left this earth, thought that they had more time. I'm going to put the link of this song down below. I'm going to put the studio version, and I'm going to put the live version of this song down below if you want to go right to it and check it out. If you haven't heard it or it's been a while, you can go right to it. This song says so much, and it's a deep song. And this is why I always make it a point for me to thank you for your time, because I know it's valuable. I know it's valuable, just like mine is. I truly understand how precious your time is, and I appreciate you spending a little bit of it with me. And once again, I want to thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.